So today I want to give you my thoughts on the DJI Smart Controller in sort of a uncut, raw, long-term review. I know this has been out for longer than 6 months, but I wanted to give my thoughts on it since using it consistently every single day that I've flown. And yeah, so stick around. What's going on, everybody? My name is Original Dobo. On my channel, I do drone and tech related content. So if that's interesting, definitely hit that subscribe button before you leave this video. This is the DJI Smart Controller. It was announced at CES and released in, I think, late January. They made this available. I've had it in my hands since that point. I think since January 29th is when I got this in my hands. It's been an absolute joy to use. And honestly, I have used this every single time I've flown my Mavics since owning it. Matter of fact, it's so good, I got rid of my standard controller that I use for the Mavic, or that came with the Mavic, which was probably a bad idea, but somebody needed it, so I went ahead and gave it to them. But this thing is great. It's honestly made it so easy to get up in the air very quickly and easily. There's been so many times where I'll see something like a train or something and I want to get up in the air, and literally it's power on the controller, get the drone prepped and ready, and they're both synced and linked, ready to go, and I'm throwing the drone in the air and I'm able to capture whatever it is I'm chasing super fast. It's a lot less fiddly than trying to get your phone in that little standard holder on the Mavic controller, which is pretty awesome. The other thing I don't have to contend with is the fact that nobody's gonna call me and interrupt my flight, which tend to happen a lot before using the Mavic 2 Smart Controller. Now with this, I don't really have to worry about that. One downfall though, I did notice a couple of times being out on the boat that this does not have a GPS signal unless it's connected to, let's say, wireless from my phone. So that's something you're going to want to make sure you do when you are out on the water flying with this, because otherwise you can't set the home point to this controller. It has no way of updating the location. This seemingly does not have any sort of GPS, which I found a little bit weird. I could be wrong, but that's what's happened to me now twice while I've been out on the water. If I'm synced up to my phone, I can get GPS signal. Without being synced to my phone, this doesn't have GPS. So I'll need to do a little bit more research and confirm on that, because it freaked me out twice. I almost lost the Mavic a couple of days ago. All right, but that's really like the main bad thing about not having wireless on this. But honestly, I can overlook that because build quality has been great. I have dropped this thing several times and it's really shown no sign other than a couple of little scuffs. Haven't cracked the screen. Now I do have a tempered glass on this screen, which I would totally recommend doing. It's kept the screen nice and pristine. It does get a little bit more fingerprints on there, but honestly, I really don't notice. With that 1000 nits of brightness, I'm able to see right through everything. Even in direct sunlight, this is way more visible than my smartphone. So bear that in mind. I know some people are like, oh, 1000 nits of brightness isn't enough. Honestly, I've not really had a situation where 1000 nits is not enough. Now I did build this ultimate smart controller combo with a crazy 2700 nits of brightness monitor, which is incredibly overkill. But for people that like the idea of portability with a smart controller but may need extra brightness in some situations, that would be a great move for you. I'll go ahead and leave that in a link down below if you want to check out that whole build package I did. It's absolutely beast. But for the whole part of things, I've just traveled with just the smart controller by itself recently. This is just so convenient to slip in my bag, throw my Mavic in behind it, and I'm good to go. And I haven't needed much more than that. Battery, oh my goodness. Let's talk about the battery. Battery life has been decent. I'm able to get a full day's use out of this, especially if I'm changing locations. Where this really falls short is trying to recharge it. Now, right now I'm sitting at about 3 bars. It's blinking on the 3rd bar. If I would charge this, it'd probably take about 2 hours from the stock charger. But what I do with this a lot of times, I just plug it into my Mavic charger and I just leave it there overnight and just forget it. I've been getting a lot of rain lately, so by the time I'm ready to use this again, it is charged up. Now, there's been times where I've gotten nervous with it and I've used like a USB-C power bank to go ahead and charge this while I'm actually flying. Didn't notice any problems with connectivity to the drone, so I'll continue to do that if I feel nervous enough. Signal wise, yes, you do not get the same amount of range out of this controller as you do with the standard Mavic controller. I don't know why that is. but I've had people do tests on this controller. I'll link a couple of those tests down below where they've done range tests and proven definitively that this doesn't have the same range as the standard controller. Now, it's a bit of a trade-off. This is super convenient, it's bright, and you know, the standard controller, obviously you got to use your smartphone or maybe a crystal sky, and you're going to get further distance. I have no idea why that is, but I can just assume it's because some of the tech that's behind this. But honestly, 5 miles is still pretty solid. As long as you're flying with your antennas like this, you should be okay. I've not really had any problems. I've not really needed more out of this, but again, I'm not looking to push it crazy far. I always find that the best flights that I do are the ones where I can still see the drone in my sight. That's my rule of thumb when I fly. But I think overall, this to me has been the single best purchase I've made. It's made getting drones up in the air quicker. And I have two Mavics. I've got the Mavic 2 Zoom and the Mavic 2 Pro. I like the fact that I don't have to relink each time to the drone. And the firmware updates have made this better. Like, I can now make my storage permanent on the smart controller to the SD card. So I have a 64 gig SD card in here, and I'm constantly screen recording to it. And it's just super convenient. Like, I screen record every flight just in case something happens. And honestly, it makes it really easy. Another thing I like about this, it makes it easier for me to hand launch, because all I have to do is put it here, pull on my sticks, press up, and let the Mavic go, and it's ready to roll. So hand launching from a boat with this, I find easier. It's, again, less fiddly, less of an aggravation with the smart controller than it is with the standard controller. I like the fact that it's USB-C, because I'm trying to get all things USB-C, and it just makes much more sense. I do wish they had like some sort of dedicated app store. Some of the app integrations just aren't there yet, so that's where you sort of lose as well. But with the SDK just being released, hopefully people will get on board with that sooner rather than later, and we'll be able to get like Drone Deploy and maybe some other drone apps that, you know, we've grown to love and know, like Litchi. I personally don't use any of those apps. I do use Drone Deploy when I'm doing mapping, but beyond that, I'm just not sort of an app guy. I like using the standard apps that DJI ships with the controller. But yeah, really happy with it. Love the ergonomics of it. It's just super comfortable. It's easy for me to hold and pinch. And I would still totally recommend this to almost anybody who has, you know, a Mavic 2, Mavic 2 Zoom, or if you have the Phantom 4 2.0, that looks like this is going to get support for very soon. And I would probably put money on the fact that this will probably work with future DJI products, just because I don't think they would call this a smart controller if it wasn't. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments section down below. Did you pick up a smart controller, and what do you still think of it? Me personally, I love it. If you can't tell from this video, I'm like oozing like praises for this device. So I want to go ahead and thank DroneWorks for being able to get me one of these at launch, because these things were incredibly scarce when they first came out. And if you're interested in getting one, there will be a link down below for the smart controller. Yeah, 6 months later, I'm pretty excited to see what comes of this. I'm going to continue using this thing because it's pretty freaking awesome. Anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this video. As always, stay original.